Hey, what up, guys? So, just coming back at you today. I want to discuss the recap from over the weekend, the fights that happened on Friday and Saturday. So, I'm not just going to be talking about the Pacquiao Broner card. I want to get into the fights from Friday night too. But again, I'm shortening up the videos. I know that as simple as possible and short as possible. But yeah, I want to talk about all the fights that happened over this past weekend. So we'll start with Friday night fights, and I'm going to start with the ESPN card. There's 4 fights real quick to talk about. First off, we'll start. I wasn't paying too much attention to Carlos Adames, super welterweight contender, but he stayed undefeated, got a 3rd round knockout. I really wasn't into it. He's beating a bunch of nobodies though, and we'll see what he does next. He needs to step up the competition though. He's smashing on nobodies that are veteran nobodies, and now he needs to step it up and face better competition. That's it. Also on the undercard was Jason Sosa, former world champion. Man, he almost got knocked out against some guy with a losing record. The guy that he fought was 17-18 coming into the fight. Like, I don't know, Sosa really, he ended up winning a 10-round decision. He hard in that fight, and he got knocked down. I don't know if Jason Sosa still got what it takes. I was really unimpressed by his performance. So we'll see what he does next. But yeah, he didn't look good in that one. He might end up dropping out of my top 10 because of it too. But yeah, I was really unimpressed with him. Then the co-feature, Shakur Stevenson, an undefeated prospect on the rise. He improved to 10-0, dominated some nobody opponent, but he's starting to step up the nobody opponents. He's starting to fight the more, veteran guys that have been around a while. They're more journeyman fighters. So, that was an impressive performance. I really like this guy. They're bringing him up. Andre Ward's his manager, and he's getting brought up the same way Ward got brought up, where every fight's pretty much being shown on ESPN and Top Rank. He says he wants to challenge the IBF world champion, undefeated Josh Warrington. Wow, that's a big step up in class, but I think he can compete at the highest level. He's 10-0 now, so I think he thinks he's ready. There's a lot of talent at 126 where he wants to fight. Only problem is there's not a lot of guys to fight, but Oscar Valdez is there. That would be entertaining. And Bob Arum said he could talk to Frank Warren and get that fight rolling, and that they'd be into going over to the United Kingdom and fighting Warrington. So, poor Stevenson is badass, guys. You really got to check him out and see what he does next. But, there's a lot of news coming out of that with him stepping up and becoming, a top 10, top 5 guy before the end of the year. And then Brian Jennings and, Oscar Rivas in the heavyweight showdown. That ended up being a pretty solid fight. Jennings I think he was ahead on 2 of the scorecards going into that last round. And so Rivas essentially needed a knockout, and he got it. Jennings just ran out of gas. Jennings is an older fighter now, and he really hasn't been tested too much except for when he fought Dimitrenko, who is, kind of a C-level heavyweight, or maybe a B-level at best, back in August. He got knocked down in that fight, but Dimitrenko is also a big heavyweight, tall heavyweight. And Oscar Rivas wasn't that, but he's a younger, undefeated fighter who can really bring it for 12 rounds, and obviously he showed that. And Jennings, in an upset, got knocked out. I was really surprised that it ended like that. I thought Jennings was going to end up getting a decision. And now Rivas takes his spot, takes a spot into the top 10 with that big win. So congrats to him. I like when it's undefeated guys coming up, because those guys are more intriguing. People want to fight those guys more, undefeated fighters coming up. A guy like Brian Jennings, he's awkward. He's a former title challenger, so he's already lost. So some of those guys are like, well, what do I need to fight him for? He's already lost. They try to avoid some of those guys sometimes, and, that's not going to happen. Rivas is undefeated, and that was a nice win. Now let's go to the DAZN card real quick. We'll start with Chris Algieri. He looked like crap. I don't know why they're grooming him to fight for a world title, because obviously he's not ready. And he's got no power. I mean, I don't know who thinks that he would be a threat to Maurice Hooker. But Eddie Hearn, I guess because of name recognition alone, wants to put him in a title fight. And he's just not ready for that. I think Maurice Hooker's going to destroy him if they fight later this year. But he might be next in line after Hooker makes his next optional defense in February. Algieri might be next in line for later in the year. So we'll keep you posted. But yeah, I really wasn't impressed with him. Yeah, TJ. And now a possible unification against Danny Roman looks like it's going to happen for the middle of the year, possibly even as close to April in the spring. So we'll see. But that should be good. Two world champions going at it. So Haney's undefeated. So that should lock up. On the co-feature, Jorge Linares got Pablo Cesar Cano. Man, he got his ass knocked out. 3 knockdowns in the first round. He just could not hang on. He really got hurt. Cano is a lot bigger than him. And I thought this might happen when he faced a full-size, 140-pounder. And Cano's even fought at 147 before. And Linares make the weight and go down to 135. But, man, what a shame, because I had him at number 1 in this division at 140. And now with that loss, it's likely dropping him back to 135, even though he hasn't made the announcement. I might drop him back to 135 anyways. Or he's really going to make a big drop in the 140 rankings. But what a shame, because I was really hoping for good things for Linares. I just worried that he might be too small for 140, and obviously that was the truth. So, congrats to Pablo Cesar Cano, though, a guy who had lost 6 of his last 11 fights coming into that fight the other night. So I got to take a look at who he's lost to, but that's probably going to get him a top 10 spot because of where Linares was ranked. He beat the number 1 guy and a good-ass fighter, a guy who's number 3 at lightweight, So, yeah, it was a big-time win right there. Got to give tip my hat to him, and we'll see what happens next for Pablo Cesar Cano. Okay, next on my list is the main event that night. Demetrius Andrade against Arthur Akakov for the WBO middleweight title. Pretty much what we thought was going to happen. Andrade just outworked and outclassed him. Looked complete. It should have went to a decision, and the ref stopped the fight on some bullshit in the 12th round. And I think it was like 30. So Andrade gets a TKO in the 12th round. But either way, he was going to win a one-sided decision. Didn't really do much to prove his case. I think he's going to get considered just because he's the WBO champ, but we'll see. And then there's talks I just read yesterday that Billy Joe Saunders could be next in line, that the WBO is going to look at it and possibly make the fight that was supposed to happen in October happen next for Demetrius Andrade. Billy Joe was talking about coming back in April. Andrade dominated his opponent here. I don't think he'd mind coming back in April. So we might see that fight sooner than later. Those are 2 top 5 middleweights, as Saunders is number 4 and Andrade's number 5 right now. So we'll see. Now we get to the big card on Saturday night on Showtime pay-per-view. I'm just going to talk about the 2 fights. The other 2 fights weren't that big a deal. Badou Jack and Marcus Brown. Man, Marcus Brown put on a good performance, even before that clash of heads, which led to one of the worst cuts I've ever seen in boxing. Man, that cut that Jack got was bad. First I want to tip my hat to Marcus Brown. What a performance. He outworked and outboxed a good, tough, veteran fighter. And, just clean. He was outboxing him, outclassing him the whole way prior to the cut happening in the 7th round. And then after that, he just took advantage of it and beat him down. It was pretty good. But my hat's off to Badou Jack as well. He fought through that, bleeding profusely out of that. It was all over his face, and he kept fighting, kept going, and he went the full distance. He wouldn't get knocked out. He went the full distance, and I got to give him props for that. So Marcus Brown, a big win, became the interim light heavyweight champ, and is also the mandatory now to Alexander Vodsik. He said Vodsik doesn't want to see him, and I would love to see that matchup. I'd love to see that get worked out for ESPN or wherever, because I think it will if it's a mandatory fight. I'd love to see him against Dimitri Bivol or Alexander Vodsik for the WBC title. And we got to wait and see. But a nice win for Marcus Brown. Badou Jack was ranked 4th in the division with that win, and Brown definitely has proven that he's a top 5 guy now. So that was a real upset and win, and we had a lot of those past weekend. But the one that was not an upset, but I guess it was kind of surprising that it was so one-sided, was the main event with Manny Pacquiao and Adrian Broner. What I got to say about this one is, I wasn't surprised that Pacquiao won a clean decision, but because that's what I called for him to win. But man, Broner just didn't do shit at all. He landed like one really good left hook, and I think it was maybe the 5th round, and that's all he did. I thought we were going to get more. We didn't get hardly anything out of Broner. He landed a total, I think it was 50 punches he landed the whole fight. I think he only threw 295. And man, just what a disappointment this was. I really wanted to see something out of Broner. I really wanted him to compete. And man, he just didn't compete at all. Pacquiao was trying to make it more interesting, but Broner just, wasn't having it. And now his excuse is he didn't get hurt at all. He's got no bruises on. Well, that's because he was running most of the fight, he avoided a lot of punches trying to do the Floyd technique, but Floyd also lands punches in return, which Broner did not do because he wasn't throwing, which is his biggest problem that people have had with him. You can roll your shoulder and do all that shit that Mayweather does, but if you're not throwing punches in return, you can't win. And yeah, it was just, I don't know how the judges scored it. Like 2 judges had it 8 rounds to 4, and 1 judge had it 9 rounds to 3. I gave Broner maybe 1 round. At the very best, 2 rounds. And it was about as bad as the Pacquiao-Bradley one that somehow got voted for Bradley, but it was that one-sided is what I'm saying. And, shocking that the judges scored it as close as they did, but at least the right guy got the decision, and Pacquiao moves forward. I hate these guys that talk shit about Pacquiao, that he's not what he was. Well, of course he isn't what he was. He's 40 years old, but he still beats down top 10 welterweights. And we're going to see how he does against top 5 guys next, because I really think he's going to look at Keith Thurman. He's going to look at Danny Garcia next. Maybe even Sean Porter. I think if Mikey Garcia somehow pulls something out of his ass and beats Errol Spence, which is not going to happen, but if he were to do that, I think he's on Pacquiao's radar for sure. And then if Mayweather is interested, we're going to see. But, good win for him. Broner should be ashamed of himself, but people are still going to tune in to watch him fight. I'm just waiting for the day that he gets knocked out cold, because that'll be the greatest day ever for me, because I can't stand him. But, anyways, that's it. But, good performances all weekend. We had some big upsets, some new faces, kind of putting themselves in the mix. And congrats to all the winners. And I'll come back later this week, guys, with the fights that are coming on the 26th next Saturday. We got 2 good fights on, or 2 good cards on Fox and on DAZN. All right, guys, talk to you later. Bye.